I don't think so. I'm just going to edit this out of the podcast
You
anyway.
don't
And
even know.
yeah, no,
Trying to play it cool. I never update.
no, I don't. I don't. I think you're wrong. Oh, no, I got 3 updates here. I'm going to tell you right now. Okay, forget it. I can't find it. I'll let you win this conversation. All right, we'll just say you're right and I'm wrong. I'm going to re-edit this later, and I'm going to put in the real answer. Okay.
Sure you will. All right, welcome everybody to the latest episode of Game Day Glare. My name is E, and I'm here with Lance. How are you doing?
I'm doing very good. Doing very good. Looking forward to today's topic.
Yeah, what is it? Can't
It is
remember.
editing workflow and post-production tips.
Yes, it is.
So it's just me asking you questions the whole time because I'm not giving any of my editing secrets at all.
Smart. Actually, first question I have is that are you like good with other platforms other than Premiere Pro? Because any question on, Final Cut or DaVinci or whatever, I'm throwing all of that to you.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate it. So I do have DaVinci. I have used DaVinci in the past. I don't use it that often, only because I've used Premiere Pro for so long that I'm just faster with Premiere Pro. And honestly, like when this is your job, it's about speed. I want to be as efficient as possible. Now, the workaround that a lot of people do is they'll spend like the first day in DaVinci and they'll actually just put all their shortcuts in DaVinci like they have in Premiere, and then it saves you quite a bit of time. I have not done that. Part is because lazy, part is because I'm a creature of habit. But I have dabbled in some new software lately. Like I've been messing around with CapCut. CapCut has great effects, like cool stuff. Like it's really nice how you can just take the background out so easily. Like I wish Premiere had that, but the timeline sucks. Like I don't understand that timeline. Like, I like a linear timeline where if I take out the background of an image, well, everything underneath it is what I see. And that's not the case in CapCut. So that's still a downfall I find of it. But I'm a Premiere Pro guy. So.
Nah, same. I've tried Filmora a few times because they reached out to me they sponsored a couple of my videos, so I played around with it, and it's actually pretty good, especially now. Like it's getting better and better, where it's very close to being able to do whatever you do, no, everything you do basically with Premiere. But it just feels like, especially like me, feel like using FX3, my FX3 camera, like the bigger files, like the 120, the 4K 120 and 10-bit, all that, like they were struggling big time on Filmora. So I don't know, in the back end, there must be something that's like way more complicated to transcode these files live as you edit them. For some reason, it is much harder for Filmora than for any other of the bigger sort of platforms, whether it's Premiere, Final Cut, or DaVinci. So you definitely need to use proxies if you're going to go that route. But otherwise, it's actually pretty good. But I don't know a lot about it. I know just enough to do a YouTube video about it.
There you go. I never tried it. The only thing is, though, maybe it's geared more for like phone footage than like a Sony camera or Canon camera. Because that's what I feel like CapCut is. That's what I feel like my issues are with CapCut. Yeah. It's meant to be used with a phone codec. Because phone codecs are different than our Sony codecs, right? The phone codecs are great. Don't get me wrong, especially like, on the new Apple one, you can have ProRes 4:2 and all that, but they're not the exact same as what we have on our Sonys, or if you use Canon, or even a Blackmagic camera.
And a lot of times you get variable frame rate with a phone, which is a challenge when you mix that with footage from a real camera, because then you get a lot of syncing issues, basically. Because I think, if I understand correctly, the way variable frame rate works, not to go too deep into this rabbit hole, but it's like, basically, if it's just an image of like right now, if it's me talking, it doesn't need a very high frame rate, so it's going to go low to save data and also save your phone from spending too much, using the battery, all that stuff. But then if there's a lot of movement, a lot of details, then the frame rate goes up so that the image stays in a decent quality. So it's constantly sort of going up and down like that. So when you're trying to sync the audio from that with something else, then yeah, it becomes a bit messy.
Well, that's also what's happening now with the difference between traditional editing softwares like Premiere Pro that we have and like these new AI ones that are on, like say like you know, we've dabbled with Opus Clip, which, you know, adds text and that on it, but it changes your frame rate. Like we're recording this right now at 24 frames, and if we drop a clip from this into Opus, it's converting it to 30, and sometimes the audio is off sync. And there's little hiccups, and the frame rate is huge for that. Like, so all these softwares, at least the ones on the cheaper end, don't seem to do a great job with the frame rate. When you're using a pro system like say Premiere Pro, you control your frame rate. You say what the frame rate is.
Let's talk about workflows. What's your workflow? When you start like a project, you know, where do you start? How do you arrange like your bins? Do you rename your clips? What do you do?
I just throw everything on my timeline and edit, man. That's what I do. No. Honestly, the first thing I'm doing is like, okay, what is this video for? Like figure out what my sequence setting is. And that's obviously like, you know, is it going to be for social media? So then I'm supposed to do 30 frames, right? Technically, is it more for corporate stuff, or is it more for like, I don't know, a highlight reel, something like that I can go with a 24 frame rate timeline? So that's the first thing I'm thinking about. Then, yeah, I always do bins. Even, you know, say when I'm backing up my cards, you know, I name all my cameras, I name all the cards. So I'll have like Sony A7 IV, Sony A7S III, GoPro, DJI Mini Pro 3 drone. So that way I know that's all organized. And then I'll try and go card by card. Now, once I import that into my project, I'll import the folder. So that way I have all the folders of my project. And then usually, you know, I'll have a folder for like effects or sound effects. So I start piecing all that stuff together. I don't necessarily go and like log each clip, like rename them and all that, because a lot of the projects I'm working on, they're one and dones, right? Like say if it's for corporate stuff right now. So I don't have to rename each clip. But what I do is I'll make a timeline and I'll put all the best shots on that one timeline when I go through everything. And I feel like once I've seen all the footage and I've organized the footage, it's a lot easier to edit. And then what I do as a cheat, I'll have two timelines, one with all my footage and then the timeline that I'm working on. And I'll start dragging in the clips that I think fit in the spot. But the first thing I do for a timeline, honestly, is music. I want to start with a good song, how I'm going to start this, and start piecing together how it's going to flow. What about you? What's your how do you start a project?
Very similar, to be honest.
It's because we work together, so you
yeah,
stole
exactly.
all my ideas. I saw you looking over my shoulder.
Yeah, it's about sounds about right. But yeah, same. I name my my footage by camera, and even in camera, like the file names will say, for my FX3, it'll say FX3, then the date, and then there's like clip numbers. So I always know, at least it's easier to find, because like you, I don't rename all my files, not even in Premiere. So yeah, they keep that name the whole time. But if I had to find something, at least there's a date, there's a camera on the file, so I know, I can sort of remember when I filmed this and find it that way. But yeah, otherwise in Premiere, same thing. I have bins for footage, for audio, and in my audio bin there'll be music, there'll be sound effects, and I'll have one for graphics and one for sequences, and then yeah, like you, if I'm editing footage from a game, I'll probably do a sequence that's like a footage dump, which is all the good clips that I liked. And but if I'm doing something more like a YouTube video or a documentary or something, then there'll probably be different bins, or even maybe different sequences that are like just dedicated to sort of A-roll content where people are talking, and then another one for B-roll. Yeah, I try to divide it in a way that is obvious enough, I guess, so that I don't have to name the clips. Like the bins are sort of doing the work, and and then I've got a pretty big screen, so I can open the bins and have like the thumbnails sort of showing, so I can just look and grab the one that I like, and yeah, I operate that way most of the time.
I have named clips. Like when I worked, when I was a Canadian's editor, you too, when we worked together, right? When you work with other editors on projects, you need to name clips. You need to share as much information as you can, either with metadata tags or by renaming the clip right there. We used to even have a project where, okay, yes, the clips weren't renamed the actual files, but when you went in that project, all the clips were named and organized. Because that's when it's very, very helpful when you're sharing projects with people. Then it helps. This way, yes, I have like you said, a footage dump timeline, but if you can read the clips also, it definitely helps. But since we're working solo right now, we don't need to do that step. If I'm working in a team and I'm getting paid by a company for a while to work on a big project, then I'm definitely taking the time and trying to get my coworkers to take the time too to label everything. But since like I'm doing solo projects and it's pretty fast turnaround, why waste the time? Why name all the clips? I know where I've shot it like 9 out of 10 times. I'm the one who shot it. So I kind of already know what I have and what I don't have.
Yeah. But like you said, like if you're going to change the file, if you're going to change the name of the clip in your editing platform, like I would also change it, the original sort of file, because otherwise you have all these names that you're accustomed to because you edit with those names, and then let's say something is not linking anymore because you moved hard drives around and it says looking for file 22145, and you have no idea what that file is because you've named it something else, so it gets a bit confusing. I don't know, I found it was confusing anyway when I was doing that, so I looked it up actually before we started recording, like in Premiere, because I don't think it's there anymore, because there used to be a thing where you could name all your clips in Premiere and then sort of select them and say change the original file to the same name.
Yeah.
But unless it moved, I can't find it anymore, so I don't know if they took that away. But I know that you can use Adobe as like Adobe Bridge. That is like meant to be, I'm pretty sure, mainly that, just change file names and things like that. And so if you have the Adobe suite already, it's free. Otherwise, I'm not too sure how much it costs. But yeah, there's ways to do that in a sort of batch way as well, so that it doesn't take you hours and hours. Because I think back in the day, I needed to change all my clips because I think was it, I don't know if it was my camera or it was ProRes, like transcoding. There would be like there was like a symbol or something that would be added in the file, and then Final Cut wouldn't recognize it. It would be a mess, and you have to just rename all your files because of that. I'm getting into boring stuff now.
You talking about Final Cut 7? Is that what you just talked
about?
Final Cut 7? My favorite program of all time. Actually, Final Cut 7, honestly, it was very easy to rename clips, and that you would just do a right click and you can name anything you wanted in your project and it would automatically change it on the hard drive.
Well, so maybe that's the one I'm thinking about then.
It was so easy and simple. And honestly, even in Final Cut 7, what Final Cut did very, very well is when you had, unlinked media or missing media, which is like the worst, when you get that red window and you're like, oh my God, where's this file? I found it way easier to relink files in Final Cut 7 than I do in Premiere. Yes, Premiere, I could find my file, but it always brings you back to like your home, at least mine always brings you back to my home directory. And then I got to go and click all the hard drives and go back in it. Where Final Cut would bring you pretty much to the point where it was instantly. And then you could backtrack from there, where Premiere doesn't really do a great job of that.
But Final Cut 7 back in the day, not the version that exists now, but back then would only take like ProRes. So you had to like convert everything, which was a pain. That's actually why I got into Premiere in the first place, because every time you come back from a shoot and you need to convert all your files, and then if you filmed in like 60 frames per second and so then it's taking even longer, and they create huge files as well because ProRes are pretty big, when you could just, other people were using Premiere and they would just copy the SD card, ready to go, bing bang. I'm like, oh, this seems way cooler, especially that you could just use the Final Cut 7 shortcut in Premiere, and it was all pretty much the same. So I was like, wow,
I'm guilty of it.
time to switch.
I still use Premiere 7 shortcuts in Premiere. Sorry, Final Cut shortcuts in Premiere. I don't know. I guess because Final Cut 7 was like the software that I used the most for editing when I was younger, and it was very easy to switch over once doing that. And that's why I said before with DaVinci, that's why people just share their shortcuts in it. It's a lot easier. But the reason why I switched from Final Cut 7 to Premiere is just because they stopped updating it, right? And then we were stuck with X. And I did have a version of X, and I liked it. I thought it was cool. But the magnetic timeline, I just didn't grasp it. I had a really, really hard time with that magnetic timeline. I like the linear timeline where I can move stuff, I put stuff and layers and all that. The magnetic timeline, I felt like I was never fully in control. Yes, I maneuvered it and I can make my videos how I want to eventually, but it wasn't as fluid of a workflow for me as it was in Premiere. Did you ever try Final Cut X? No,
never. I think I've been in once, but I've never had it on my computer, so I've never really had the chance to really sort of play around with it. And yeah, maybe one day. Nah, well, like you said, like once you're used to something and you're super fast with it, it's just the idea of using something else and being like 10 times slower. It's just not very appealing. But yeah, maybe if I ever do something for YouTube, but so far, no, I haven't tried it.
Do you feel pressure to use DaVinci? Because everyone's on this DaVinci wave. And I think DaVinci is great. Like I know in 19 that just came out, like you could throw in an audio track and you can isolate the voice, drums, all the bass, guitar, all that stuff. And there's some really cool stuff. And obviously color correction is what DaVinci is known for. But like we were talking the other day, you and I, and we're saying like, when was the last time your Premiere crashed?
Never crashes.
Yeah, mine doesn't crash.
Why people complain? Yeah,
and that's why they all jump to DaVinci.
Yeah, people say, "Oh, it's so much more stable." I'm like, when does stability become an issue? Like, I don't know. But I guess if you're using a very old computer and you got a very recent version of Premiere, maybe there's a clash there that makes it crash a bit more. But I don't know. But not to answer your question, I don't really like the hype of being in the coolest editing software around just to be like the other cool kids. It doesn't really appeal to me one bit. The only thing to me is just that I feel like a sucker paying all this money for Premiere when DaVinci is just a one-off payment, and that's if you want the pro version, which I would because I film in 10-bit. But yeah, I see, like at the same time, I would still need After Effects. I would still need Audition. I would still need Photoshop, probably Illustrator, because sometimes I get, files that are Illustrator files that I need
vector files, stuff like that.
To transfer to Photoshop. So realistically, like I would be paying a lot of money anyway. So what's an extra $20 or whatever, and just keep it all Adobe and it all links together. And especially with After Effects, like you get access to media encoder as well. So it's to me, I'm fine with it. I just the once a year when I have to pay for it, I feel a bit like a sucker. But other than that, I'm fine.
Well, the price tag, you know what, having this monthly subscription for everything it's a pain, man. Like before we used to buy it, but the thing was you had to, so I don't know, this is what version 24 now it's called. What is it called? Yeah. So Premiere 24, you would wait and you'd buy 25 and then you would buy it every year, every couple of years. So now it just automatically is forever updating. Like, there could be a new version 24.67 tomorrow, so that's kind of nice. But yeah, the fees are getting kind of at crazy. Everybody wants you to have a subscription to everything. And it's like, at what point can you just be like, where's the option to just pay it for the year? At least like mine is set up monthly.
Oh yeah, no, I pay annually, but like at least like for an editing platform that I'm going to be using all year, like it kind of makes sense. It's frustrating because it's the only one that does that, but it kind of makes sense. But I don't get all these plugin companies that are charging you like monthly fees or annual fees for a plugin. It's like, how many times am I using this plugin? But then you're stuck sort of paying if you're going to reuse, like if you're going to go back into that project, then you need that plugin to be active. And it's like, oh, yeah, as soon as like every time I look at plugins that look interesting, if it says like that it's a subscription, I'm automatically out. Like I don't want to commit to like a lifelong thing to a plugin company just because I needed this one effect in this one video. Like this is ridiculous.
Well, that's what the AI plugins seem to be doing. Like I looked into that Autopod because, you know, we have this podcast and we do a pretty good job of tag teaming on who's going to edit the next episode, and we kind of break it up. But there's the Autopod, and you're like, okay, this is going to be super easy. I could buy the plugin, I could put it in my Premiere, and it's going to edit our podcast, right, for us. Yeah, for $45 a month or $35 a month, something like that, and it doesn't even do that great of a job. It's okay. No, but it does the cameras. It does the cameras really good, but it doesn't get the oohs and ahs or the times that we interrupt each other or all that. Like, obviously, our audience doesn't see that because we clean all that up. But the AI software doesn't seem to do a great job. So why am I paying $35 for this plugin to do this? You know?
Yeah, and it's like at least I guess if you're doing content that is always just one off, so you're never gonna go back to, then maybe these plugins make sense because the day you don't need them, you just get rid of it and it's fine. But like for people like me, I often have to go back to older projects. Like my clients are like I'm still doing work for some clients in Australia, and it's usually, you know, I'm starting from an older project that we're not updating and things like that. So if they were happy with the style of that video, they were happy with that plugin, that effect that I used in that video once, and we kept using it after, then I'm stuck paying for this plugin year after year just because once or twice a year I'm doing a video for these guys. Like it's just I don't know. It's not what happened to just paying $40 and being done with it.
Yeah, and owning the effects, right?
Yeah. I guess for
Exactly.
them, it's a way to, first of all, make a lot more money and then stop piracy as well. But
So what plugins have you bought that you're like, okay, this was worth it? Something that you bought
recently, not
online?
many.
Not many?
Well, back in the day when it was a one-off, then I did buy like a few, like there was like, especially back in the days of like Final Cut 7, like there was a lot of effects that you could like third-party companies were able to create like transitions and things like that you could buy and just import in your in Final Cut, and it would just work seamlessly. With Premiere, you can buy presets and plugins and things like that, but it's not like it's like in. Well, I think there are sometimes they're just like effects that you drag and drop, but most of the time it's more of a like a preset that uses like tools within Premiere to create an effect that would have taken you, let's say, 30 minutes to do, and then this thing just does it for you. But what I've bought mostly are overlays, filters like film filters and things like that, film looks. I've bought, in terms of like, I did buy some presets. Well, like depends how you see it, because having a motion array subscription, for example, gives you access to all these things for free, but you're paying for the subscription. So I got like, camera shakes and transitions as well, that like able to like, transitions from one clip to another, but it's not an actual effect. That's what I mean. Like the difference is it's not just an effect that I would drag like I would like across dissolves, for example. It's like a stack of adjustment layers that you put on top, and it makes the same thing, but it's not as convenient as just drag and drop from your effect panel. But yeah, so honestly, since they moved to the subscription models, I don't buy much. I stick to overlays and things like that, and then just.
I have two that I use quite often that I bought, but I bought the Premiere Gal set.
Oh yeah, what does she sell?
So she sells like it's preloaded titles, camera shakes, camera movement, and stuff like that. It's through Atom X, so it's like an extension window that you have in Premiere, and it's just drag and drop. But it's the same thing. You drag and drop it on your clip, and it takes like say 5 seconds, and then you have an extra 5 layers of these effects on top. But they work really, really good. And I also bought Matty Hapoya's some of his Mogerts for titles and stuff like that, for locations, travel films, stuff. And honestly, I really like it. It's professional, it's clean, it's simple. I just use it for projects where, like, you need a quick title and you don't have time to go in After Effects and work on something, or even go into Motion Array, search for a half hour, find out exactly what template you want, and then you make it your way. So I'll use them for that to save time. But those are the only two that I was really, really happy with. Like, I bought some other ones in the past, and it's like, you have to go to this site, and then you have to download this, and then you have to bring in here. Then you get, like, a lot of steps, where this was just, as soon as I bought it, I double clicked it, boom, it installed, it's ready to go. It's simple, So I use those two. I think they were good purchases.
To be honest, I've got mixed feelings about Mogerts. I feel like a lot of the times they're just a bit too like limited in what I can change. Like, there's not much that you can do with them other than what it's like, adding the text or moving the picture around, doing like things that are they're built specifically to do. Like, if there's like, if you wanted to remove the background or remove like something within it, it's just not possible. It's this one clip and you can't really go into it and sort of move things around. So yeah, they kind of annoy me for that reason, because there's always one thing that I wish I could change that I can't. And yeah, so I rarely use them.
Honestly, Mogerts for titles, I find, are the best. Like, it's just easy. You have a quick little motion. It shows that you put some effort into it, but you didn't spend 25, 30 minutes in After Effects exporting that transparent layer, So that's where I use it. And I mean, the thing is, though, you have to find ones that work for you. Now, don't get me wrong. My, let me just check. My Essential Graphics panel, I'm not crazy about it. I don't like the layout.
It's messy, isn't it?
Yeah, like, it's hard to find stuff, and I'm scrolling all the time.
Yeah, exactly.
I put stuff in my library, and I try to give myself some shortcuts, but I think that's one thing that would be nice if Adobe could improve, is because, like, honestly, you need those little essential graphics, and it helps, but it's not organized.
Yeah, and then every time you try one on your timeline, it creates something in your bin. Like, it just appears in your bin, and you're trying a bunch of stuff, and then the next thing you know, your bin is just a mess. There's all these things that just appear.
But now you're going to be able to preview them. So have you tried the beta version of Premiere?
Nah, I don't touch anything that's not proved to be stable and fast and steady. Not that I'm afraid of crashing, but
You're afraid.
Because we mentioned earlier, it never crashes. But it's not the crashing that's the issue. I just want to be clear. It's that, when like Premiere makes an update, there's always that period between the next computer update where like everything is super slow. Because like Premiere is like updated and it's changed like the way it's handling things, and now like all of a sudden everything's super slow until my Mac says, "Hey, update," and then I update. Oh no, actually it's the other way around. I should say, sorry. When your Mac, well, for me, I'm on Mac. Like, if I update my computer, often Premiere after that will be super slow, and then Premiere has to adapt to the new way that like Mac works for something, and then it gets back to normal. So I always sort of wait for all these things to sort of get to the same level before I do any updates.
I usually never update my operating system. Like, what am I even on now? Let's see. I'm with whatever it came with at the time. So I don't know. Is it Mojave or
Yosemite or something?
Yeah, no, not Yosemite. Where does it tell you? I'm on Sonoma. So that's like a year old or 2 years old. And
I'm on the latest one.
But I'm on the newest version of Premiere. Like, my Premiere is up to date, but my operating system, I'd rather have an older operating system and a newer Premiere, because I know I can always go back.
Well, I'm on Sonoma too. That's the latest one.
No, there's another one now.
Oh, must be very recent.
I dare you to update yours first, okay?
No,
but I never update my operating system.
I'm on Sonoma, but I was going to check if I've got...
I get a message all the time, how update. No,
it doesn't. It says Mac OS Sonoma 14.0 4.4.1, your Mac is up to date.
I don't think so. I'm just going to edit this out of the podcast anyway. And yeah. No.
Try to play it cool. I never update.
No, I don't. I think you're wrong. Oh, no, I got 3 updates here. I'm going to tell you right now. Okay, forget it. I can't find it. I'll let you win this conversation. All right, I'll just say you're right and I'm wrong. I'm going to re-edit this later, and I'm going to put in the real answer. Okay.
Sure you will.
All right, so let's get into editing techniques. Okay.
Yes.
Since we're doing sports all the time, what kind of projects are you doing the most? Well, obviously, I know your YouTube is number one, and then after that, what is it that's trendy? Like reels? You're doing?
Yeah, for clients, I'd say the thing I do the most is hype reels.
Okay, and what's your process with that?
I organize my bin, like I said earlier, and then like you, the first thing I'll figure out is the music, and I'll start with the parts where I want, that'll have like the biggest impact, which is probably the first time that there's like a big sort of beat drop in the music. Let's say like the music sort of ramps up and then it leads to like a big bang. I want to have like one of the greatest sort of plays that I have available in that moment, or at least something that fits well with like whether it's a body check in hockey or like a big tackle or a great play, something like that. So I'll place those first. Like if there's other sort of moments like that in the music track, if there's like a little dip in the intensity of the music and then it goes back up again, like I'll start with those parts and then I'll fill the gaps basically. So depending on the type of music, it'll be either a lot of slow motion or no slow motion at all. Actually, lately, like I just did a soccer video for a women's football, the A-League, which is the Australian soccer league, like the A-League women's grand final. And I think I mostly sped up my clips. Like I played them, most of them at like 110, 115 percent speed, just because the track was very hype and energetic, and I was like a lot of fast cuts, a lot of movements, and so yeah, it was just that type of video. All that to say that it's all about the music, what tone that the music sets. And once I filled all the gaps and I'm happy with it, like usually as well with the music, like I'll try to have a part in it where if I have access to commentary with my footage, like if there's no gap where no one's singing, I'll probably use, towards the end of the song, there'll be a moment somewhere, either at the beginning or the end, where there's a loop of the beat without any lyrics, and I'll try to mix that in somewhere, so then I can sort of put commentary there. And otherwise, once that the sort of the content is pretty much locked in, then I'll attack like the visuals. I'll add some filters, I'll add some effects, things like that, and then I might add some sound effects if need be, and some text if need be. And yeah, it's pretty much my workflow. What about you?
Heavy on the effects, or it depends on the video, obviously?
Yeah, well, it depends, but depends on the time I have as well. Because usually I don't have much. Like especially for soccer, for example, like the semifinals were the weekend before, then the grand final is next weekend, but they need to approve the video by like Wednesday or Thursday, so there's not that much time. So yeah, keep it light. But I'm not heavy on effects. It's not my style anyway, so I'm happy to do it that way. And I keep it to like the effects will go mostly for those big beat drops, those big moments that I was talking about earlier. Otherwise, I'll have like some overlays throughout, like maybe it's some film stuff, maybe a little bit from my visual effects back, like on the impacts, like I'll use a few things. I'll use a few scribbles here and there just to add a bit of movement, a bit of make it a bit more dynamic, but nothing too crazy. Like if I do go in After Effects to do something, it'll be like once or twice, maybe 3 times tops for let's say 90-second video.
Okay. So me, I only use the Beyond the Game effects pack. It basically edits the video
Sure you
for
do.
me. Okay.
Yeah. That's what they say.
That's what they say.
That's what
That's what
they
they
say.
say. Honestly, like, so say if I'm doing like a highlight pack or a highlight pack for a player. Let's say I'm doing a video for a player. I feel like my editing has changed a lot on the way I look at it now. So I used to like start slow and build up to the biggest moments, and you would end with like, I don't know, say if I'm doing one for my son, who's a goalie, I would end with the biggest saves and the biggest moments, and really build that up. But now you can't do that. Nobody makes it to the end of your video, especially if you're putting it on Instagram or on socials or TikTok or whatever. So it's like I find myself thinking in reverse now. Like, let's show the biggest moments in those first 3-4 seconds. I could throw some other big highlights in near the end too, but I got to show something right away to catch people. And I'm a clean editor. Like, I like cutting to the beat. I don't like adding a lot of effects. But the thing is, the clients nowadays, clientele is changing. They want those effects because they see them on socials and that. And it's like, okay, what is too, there's a fine line between a good effect and too many effects. And I struggle with that because I like it basic. Like I want to tell the story. I want it to be clean. I want it to be precise. But nowadays, younger viewers want the effects. They want all the glitz and the glare, So overlays are great for that. Like especially like those nice little swooshes that go around people. Like I find those work great. Those are easy. They're fast. They save you a lot of time. If I have a lot of time, then I'll go in After Effects and I'll make something nice, or I'll try something trendy. But 9 out of 10 times, I'm using some quick overlays, making sure that they're timed right to the beat or at that exact moment, where the impact moment is. Make sure my sound effects are lined up with that. But I find it harder because I grew up editing in a way where I was always stretching it out and telling the story, and now it's like you got like, depending if you're doing a quick highlight for a kid, well, you got 15-20 seconds to get this video. And you think, a 15-20 second video doesn't take long to edit. Man, it could take a couple hours, like depending on what you're doing, just searching through the footage. Like if you're showing up to 1 or 2 games and you're filming highlights for somebody, okay, that's not bad. A game is, you got like 2 hours of footage. It's easier to go through. But if you've been following someone for like the season and then you got to do a couple shorts videos for them, that's tough, man. I find that so tough. That's where you really got to organize. Like after a game, I'll go through each game and keep the best clips and push the other stuff to the side and really start building my project then. But I find like short form content is not as easy as it looks, especially for highlights.
So what's your strategy like, other than putting a big sort of highlight at the start? What's your strategy for short form content that is different from, let's say, like a typical high pre-roll or a typical 3-minute video?
I try to make it like dramatic, like more dramatic, I guess is where my mood is. Where I find like a lot of the stuff you see now, it's kind of like pop, not pop music, but kind of like flashier. I try to be like, make sure that it's nice and crisp, clean images, and dramatic. I want you to feel something after. I want you to like have little goosebumps after, like, or you feel like that person is elite. Like that's what I'm trying to portray. Now, do I always do that? Maybe not. It's tough. But that's where I try to be different. I try to not be as flashy with all the effects, because everybody looks at TikTok, and I'm sure you've done the same. You always try to compare yourself to other people, right? And you look at their edits, and you're like, oh my God, look at this, look at that. No, yeah, I could do a shot like that, and I can edit it any way you want. But I'm trying to give them something a little different. And sometimes right now, I feel like clean is different. Now, if I have a client that says, listen, they come with an example and they're like, I want this video to look like this, then I'll copy it. I'll do it for them. No problem. but I'm trying to give them a cleaner image so then they could show maybe, it's not just a highlight. You're using it as a resume too, especially for a young athlete who could pass it on to another coach or to a team that's looking at them. You don't need all those effects. They want to see the play. So that's what I'm kind of doing, because that's who I'm kind of targeting anyway. I'm not filming highlight reels for guys on the Habs who want that just for their Instagram. I'm doing it for younger athletes who can use that to get them to the next level. What about you?
And do you do, well, I was going to say, I was going to ask, do you do sometimes just small clips that are just, almost no editing at all, just like a little 10-second moment, just like a snapshot of a great goal or a great save?
I give them to the kids, but I don't post them or that. So I'll give them to them and they can do what they want with it. Okay. But yeah, I'll definitely add a quick little speed ramp in there. Mm-hmm. Slow it down, and then that moment, boom, you'll speed ramp it up and then slow it back down, or that. I do that, but I don't really post that kind of stuff. But clients do want it, so I'll give it to them, and they could post it if they want. But that is becoming more and more trendy, right? Like where it's just one quick shot, and it's weird because for years that wasn't it. You had to edit all these sequences and put all these shots together, and it was always so fast paced, and like a 30-second video probably had, I don't know, 60 shots in it, maybe more. And now you see, like, look at what Pete is doing for MLB, where he has a guy stealing from first to second, and it's one shot, it's 10 seconds, but it looks beautiful because it's speed ramped at the exact moment where the guy takes off, and then it comes back into a regular speed when he slides in. So you are seeing more and more of that. And people want more and more content. That's the thing. Like, when you're filming for these guys now, you don't have to always have an edited piece. Sometimes they just want to see that save or that goal or that shot.
Yeah, I get that a lot during games. Like when I was doing the PWHL stuff, like it's when they want, like if there's a goal in the first period and they want to have it straight away in the first intermission, they don't want you to edit it in the crazy funky way. They just want the goal. Some people want it's almost like, because the news are on social media now. Like it's more about when it's like in-game sort of content. Like it's all about feeding people news updates about the game, updates about what's going on. It's not necessarily about being too cinematic or too creative. It's just about getting it out there as quickly as possible.
And it's changed, right? The landscape has changed. Like even for us, like, we were used to building these 3 to 5 minute highlight videos back in the day when we first started. And nowadays, like, you could just send someone a clip and they'll share that in their socials and then get more views than the full edited video, because nobody has the attention span anymore to watch that full video, which is crazy. Because even like, say you're doing a demo reel with all your sports highlights, I wouldn't go over a minute. And even if I went over a minute, I know no one's watching past that minute.
Yeah, exactly. Which is weird, because then you're just like, what do I show? And you always feel like you're leaving stuff out and they won't really know what you're capable of and all that sort of stuff. But what I found is that it's not about showing everything you've done. It's just using that minute to show what you can do, basically. So you're just showing off your skills with a great edit, with great looking footage, but you don't have to show every single event that you worked on or every single client, or doesn't matter. It's not about that. It's about them watching that video and thinking, yeah, I'd like for someone to make a video like that for us.
But it's hard, right? Because you want to show everything. When you're doing that video for yourself or that demo reel, you're like, oh, I got to show this, I got to show that. And you have this bin of all your best stuff, and yeah, half of it just sits there. And then you talk about it later on a podcast, okay? That's what you do.
Well, I do have to do one for myself since I moved back to Canada, and also for my YouTube channel. Like, you're meant to have like a trailer sort of video on the homepage, and I still have just like one of my editing videos I made months ago that I'm meant to replace with a trailer. I still haven't done it. So,
do you need me to edit your trailer for you, E? Is that what you're trying to ask me right here?
I don't know if you're ready.
I don't know if I'm ready for all that behind the scenes footage of you setting up cameras and mics and stuff.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's the thing. How where do I go? That's the thing. Like, do I do something about? I have to find a concept idea. Still working on it. That's why it's TBD, work in progress. But I'll get there.
So what do you think is more trendy right now then? Do you think it's edited pieces or just clips or a little bit more of storytelling? Or what do you watch? I'll change this question. What are you watching on your phone more?
I think it's about variety. Like, I don't think I watch one thing all the time exclusively. I watch different brands, but I'm obviously a lot into sports. Also watch a lot of recipes and cooking recipes, things like that. But yeah, so no, to me, it's all about variety. Like, I like you said, like a great cinematic shot that's got speed ramp in it and that's really well produced. I find very satisfying, but also like to watch like very good edits that I can tell I've taken a lot of time and maybe a lot of resources as well to get done. And so I appreciate it all. It's for me, it's inspiration. I love to go on Instagram and discover new things and think to myself, oh yeah, I'm going to save this video because I'd like to try to do that at some point, and then I never do. But but I still believe that in that moment that I will. But no, I'm kidding. But yeah, I do go to Instagram for inspiration a lot for trying to find ideas and new ways to do things. So it's always good to see a bit of everything, basically. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I look a little bit at everything. I do find it maybe sometimes frustrating because everyone thinks like when you look at social media, it's all about the numbers, right? This guy got so many views, this guy got so many other views, and you'll see these nicely edited pieces that are cinematic and to the point, and then you'll see some crappy phone video that's not even like on an like our iPhone cameras are very very good, and some of the ones you see, you're like, what phone are you filming this on? Like a flip phone or what? And they have all these views, and then you just realize that it's all consumption, right? Like it's all about sharing content, and maybe because I'm a little bit older, I have a hard time sometimes grasping that like content is content, whether you're doing a podcast or you're doing a highlight reel or you're just sharing one clip, it's all about expressing yourself and showing that content. So like my perspective's really changed as I've, on social media longer and longer and longer. I look at everything and you know what? The cinematic stuff, like those nice travel videos, I'm always like, oh, I'm going to go and film this. Oh, I'm going to go and do that. And then I have a bunch of footage that I have here from my last trip to Utah or Florida, and I haven't done anything with that footage because I edit my clients' videos. We'll edit these podcasts, but like edit your own stuff, it's tough. And it's hard. It's hard. It's hard to do that, especially when this is your job. Because even when you're editing those projects, sometimes it feels like work. Now, other times I can open up a project and it doesn't feel like work at all. But, when I want to be inspired and I want to do that travel video, it feels like work. And I have that internal struggle with it. You ever struggle with your personal projects?
Oh, definitely. It's called my YouTube channel. Yeah, it says on my banner at the top, weekly videos, and yeah, it's been a while since I've been consistent. I was for a little bit a few months ago, and then I fell off the wagon again, I guess. But yeah, yeah, no, it is hard when like for example, this like the podcast, because you're involved. I want to keep up with the schedule that we've put together, because if I don't show up, then I'm letting you down, and it's a motivation to do what I need to fill in, my part of the deal, where if I'm just by myself and I don't have anyone sort of waiting, there's no client, there's no deadline, there's no one that's going to be disappointed if I take an extra day or an extra week. And it's a lot harder to be to be consistent and to be on point and to finish on time. That's why now I'm working on my structure, my weekly schedule, and I'm changing a few things so that I dedicate like 2 days a week just to do that, because otherwise it gets a bit messy. But otherwise, I think like I'm always impressed with sports videographers that share a lot of the content that they film during games, because people will see, you know, they'll see like a small like a short sort of edited clip of the let's say like the Lakers videographer will share like a cool sort of cinematic sequence that he quickly put together with LeBron James dunking or whatever the case may be. But that's extra work. Like it's not like that person. It's not like that person shows up, films the game, and then goes home and just posts random Instagram videos and gets paid for it. Like he's paid to do a bunch of other things, and then on top of that, it goes home and just keeps going and does his own thing. So that's dedication, and that's also. But at the same time, I feel like there's a way, like Instagram and TikTok, and like that's the world we live in, where like, what's the point of filming LeBron James and if no one knows that you're doing it? So you have to post on Instagram and stuff to show people how cool, you know, how lucky you are and what you have access to and things like that. So it's, you know, there's a purpose in mind, but it's cool. I wish I had the energy to do. Well, I guess I did, because I used to, before I moved from Australia, I did have a full-time job. Plus, I was doing my YouTube channel. Now I'm doing just YouTube, but then still doing some freelance. But yeah, it's not easy. There's a lot of work involved. There's a lot of time, a lot of hours, and then you got to decide what you want to prioritize. And that's when usually, like you said, your personal stuff sort of gets shafted a little bit.
Well, that's it. You know what? I appreciate that I keep you accountable, by the way, because you know, honestly, we are very consistent, and I do this too. Like this for me doesn't feel like work, because even if the camera's off, we talk like this. Now, we probably don't have like an order of what we talk about it, but you and I, you know, when we catch up, we always end up at some point talking about shooting techniques or editing techniques or the cool stuff that we used to do and all that. So for us, like this doesn't feel like work for me. This is just you and I having a conversation. But I am happy that I'm keeping it consistent. Like, you know, we put out a show every week. Sometimes, you know, like this week we filmed 2 shows, but you guys will only see one later on, because we do keep one in the bank in case we are busy.
Sure.
But I like it, and this is
When
for
you
us.
do all your fancy trips.
Exactly. No, but we came up with this just so we can try and help people, because we were once young videographers or sports videographers, and it was a struggle. And this is just to maybe, you know, give someone a little bit of advice, or they can learn something from us, or hopefully they're amused by some of our stories and our relationship too, right? Like,
Well, actually, speaking of helping people, before we wrap things up, do you want to do the thing I spoke to you about the other day, where someone left me a bunch of like voice messages, questions about editing, and I thought sometimes we do a Q&A at the end, so we could live answer
yeah,
those questions.
let's
Well,
try.
you didn't finish your thoughts. Sorry, I sort of cut you off there.
No. I was pretty much done, man. I was just like, you know, thanking you for being consistent. You know, I mean, we brainstorm, we kind of figure out what we're going to talk about, we plan ahead. It is a lot of extra work, this stuff, especially you're doing YouTube. I have other clients. So it isn't always easy to make the time, but we have been making the time. So we just hope that the people who are listening are enjoying it. And, you know, at the end of the day, we're doing this for us, and we're putting out our stories and all that, but we're actually just doing it, you know, for fun. And I'm enjoying it.
Oh my. Oh,
All right.
so
So let's
far,
go.
so good.
Let's hear your recordings that you have on your phone.
Yeah, I gotta find them though.
Oh, you're not even prepared.
Let's do those questions. I've got Tim, who's actually Australian, so we've never met, but I thought it was cool that he's from Australia. Well, I guess I assume he's from Australia. From like you'll hear.
Is your real mate in the email in the
Yes.
in the voicemails, or what? He says mate.
Can't remember. We'll see.
All right.
But yeah, he asked me a bunch of questions regarding editing and editing workflows and things like that. So I thought he actually suggested that he said, don't write me back, just ideas for the podcast sort of thing. So it's like,
All right.
well, let's do this. So let's see if up the volume. Let's see if you guys can. Let me know if you can.
Loving the podcast. Just found it today and loving it. A couple of questions that I thought could be useful on the show. One was you talked about killing your darlings and like spending time recording it and then having to get rid of it. And for me, like I can definitely understand that, but for me, I think my thing is figuring out why the hell I'm making my videos, and because often I'm making it sort of for the players or something like that, and I'm trying to include all the players, and as a result, the video gets long. So some ideas on why you guys make videos and being really defined around that will be really cool, and obviously be different for everyone, every situation. But I'd love to hear what you guys are thinking when you're sort of choosing that sort of stuff. And because that might be something that I probably should adopt, I think. Cheers, mate.
Good say, mate.
So he's definitely from Australia, okay? So we clear that up, okay? He's definitely from Australia. All right, I'll take a stab at it first. I feel you when you say you're trying to include all the players, because you don't want to ever leave anyone left out. Now, in the past, when working for a team, sometimes you get that mandate where you have to show every player. Like you and I have done videos in the past for the Canadians, and it was you have to show everybody. It doesn't matter if it's a goal, but you have to show everybody. So if it's an opening video for a club, then yeah, figure out a way to show everybody, because it looks bad when you leave someone out. Now, you can have someone scoring, you can have someone applauding, you can have them on the bench. It doesn't matter what you show them warming up, but try and get them in a quick shot. So yes, that makes your video a little longer. If I'm doing a reel though, or a quick recap of something, then I'm not worried about who I'm showing. I'm worried about what moments I am showing, the impact I'm showing. That's how I differentiate the two. Now, I'm always trying to tell a story. Deep down, I'm always trying to tell a story. So say if I'm doing an opening video for a team where I'm showing everybody, then I'm kind of going through 9 out of 10 times, I'm showing the process of how a game would go out. Like, external shots, locker room shots, warm up, boom, game action. And in between then I'll put like headshots, stuff like that. But I've kind of showed how it starts to how it finishes. But that's a longer video. That's a 2-minute video. If I'm doing reels, I'm not worried about that stuff. No one's worried about that stuff anymore. People want to see action. They want to see excitement. Whether it's a highlight of a game that's a reel or a series or something like that, don't worry so much about it. They want to see action, but I'm still trying to show a story. So the way I'm telling that story briefly is I'm showing action, and then I'm showing that my team or my guy is winning or doing good that day. That's the story I'm going to tell 9 out of 10 times.
Yeah. And a trick as well, like if you have like an intro where there's like a bit of warm-up footage, or like I said, like locker room stuff, if you're doing a video where you're trying to include more people, but there's players that are not going to be that great, or not going to do anything, they're not scoring, they're not doing anything that's worthy of like a big highlight, that's where you want to include them. Basically focus on them during the warm-up, get a shot of them getting ready in the locker room, so that way they get their time in the video, and you don't have to worry about trying to film them during the game, even though they're just blocking or doing something that's more in the background.
Especially like in basketball, say you have bench players that don't really play. Yeah. So that's when you want those guys. You want a quick shot of them on the bench, and throw a shot of the bench in every now and then. Yeah, towels. No, but if you have a bench shot in your video, you showed everybody. It's a quick little hack. Now, obviously people want to be seen up close, but if they ever came back to you and said, how come so-and-so wasn't in the video? You could be like, oh, he's right here on the bench.
Yeah.
All
right. Next question.
All right.
Another question was how you video in terms of the game. Like I shoot hockey and there's 4 quarters, and like I probably end up with like 80 clips or something at the end, 100 clips or something. Like I'm always on and off. Sometimes that previously was to stop overheating, but now I've got external monitor and record it now. So hopefully that sort of solves that problem. But do you film the whole quarter or the whatever, or do you do like 2 clips? Like let's say you're shooting for like an hour game and an hour's worth of action. How many clips do you guys end up? and sort of, yeah, thought that'd be really interesting. For me, I've got clips all over the place. It drives me nuts. But at the same time, previously I couldn't record. So is that what you guys do? Is it a good idea? Love your thoughts on that. Thanks.
All right, I can take
All
this
right,
one.
so
first of all, when he says hockey, it's field hockey.
Okay, because I'm going to say hockey has 3 periods. We're talking about 4 quarters.
Hockey in Australia is field hockey, and then you got ice hockey.
And that's why he's over here. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I would definitely say keep doing what you're doing. Like, a lot of clips is normal. Like, you don't want to have a one clip that goes on for 20 minutes, because then finding your highlights within that 20-minute clip is so much worse than having like 25 clips, to me anyway. Because scrolling through a longer clip is really annoying. It's really difficult, unless you want to create like sub clips from that clip. But I don't know what you're really gaining from doing that. You might as well have separate clips. Because another thing that like what I do a lot when filming basketball, for example, if there's a dunk or something really cool, then right after I stop recording, I'll just record a quick 1-second clip with my hand in front of the lens so I can see where all the cool shots are. Same thing when I'm filming for clients, because I give them all my raw footage. Like, I film for a university, I film football games. So every time I film a first down or anything like that, an interception, I'll film the ground. And if it's a touchdown, I'll film the scoreboard. So the editor can quickly sort of know where everything is just by looking at the thumbnails. So yeah, I would say definitely keep having tons of clips. It's normal, and you can always delete the ones that you feel are no good afterwards. But I'd say you better have more than not enough.
No, exactly. Listen, that was a good question. Now, it's funny you mentioned the number of clips. So I actually just checked fast. When I film a hockey game, I have an average of 100, a real hockey game with 3 periods, not 4 quarters. I have about an average of 120 clips. And now I'm usually at one side, so I'm not always filming what's happening on the other side. Sometimes I will if I want a nice long shot of that. But yeah, I got 120 clips. So, and I'm constantly starting and stopping. After a goal, yeah, I'll record a clip of my hand in front of the camera so it's black, so I know when I look fast at my when I look fast on my desktop, I'll see the black. I know, boom, the clip before it. That's the goal. The only time I would really film long periods is if the mandate is to film the whole game. So like from a wide shot up top, but I would still pause it between every whistle, like, you know, before the field hockey, regular hockey, like before face-off, stuff like that. Then I would pause it. I would have longer clips that way. I would just go in between whistles, and that way I can edit the game. You know, your 60-minute game is 60 minutes because you're cutting every whistle. That's the only time I would have long clips like that. But having a lot of clips isn't a bad thing. Like, you know,
because you end up with the same amount of data. Everything is the same. It's in 100 clips instead of 4.
I would be more concerned if all my clips were from the same spot. That's what would concern me. Like, you want to move around. You want to make it look like you had multiple cameras there that day, even if you're the only shooter. So that's the thing that I would suggest is move around a lot. Don't worry about how many clips you have, because, you know, we've had this discussion with other guests on our team, on our podcast. You miss shots. No one's perfect. You're going to miss stuff. You're going to get some great shots too, but you're not going to use everything anyway. So don't worry. Don't sweat it. Just get what you can get the best angle you can get the shots you can get. And don't worry. Like, whether you have too many shots and you some are scrap or you miss a shot, it's all part of the process. Now, obviously, if you're just filming one game, yeah, I get it. You're afraid to miss stuff. Because, you know, if you don't have the access or the media pass all the time, then for sure. But if you're filming somebody for a season, then don't worry. You're going to get those shots. You can get those highlights.
Want to do more?
Yeah, sure. Yes. Huh? There's more? How many did he give you?
7 total. 1, 2,
well, why don't we just have him on as a guest? We're going to have him on as a guest one day, okay?
Time difference can be an issue, though.
We'll do just a Q&A show where we'll just have random people come on the show and ask us questions.
Yeah, we could.
Yep.
Let's do one more.
Another question. How much of your footage do you keep? So let's say you shoot a game and
Well,
you
it's
might
similar
think,
to the piece.
maybe I'll use it one day, but maybe I won't. So it's a 50-50 call. Do you keep it all and do you store it away? If so, how do you store it? And do you rename and relabel files? Like, do you cut a section out that you're like, oh, this is a great bit, and then you name it, and save it somewhere else? And if so, how do you do that? Like, if you've got a long clip, let's say you've shot for, I don't know, for me, a long clip would be like 1.5 minutes. And in there, I've got like 4 seconds that are really good. How do you cut that 4 seconds out? Like, do you put it in something and then export it? Or do you use QuickTime and trim it? And do you relabel it as well as that specific thing and then save that and then throw the rest away? Cheers, mate.
Well, we sort of touched on most of that, but except the part where I wouldn't trim whatever my raw file is, my original file, just keep it the way it is. I'm not trying to save data by resizing just getting rid of the fat or things like that. And in terms of like deleting stuff, I think it just depends on who the video's for, like who that shoot was for. Like if it's like for me, I'm constantly reusing older stuff, either for recurring clients or for my YouTube channel, because I'm mentioning things that I've done and I'm like, oh yeah, I can use that shot from that game, blah, blah. So I'm not deleting anything. But if all your projects are one-offs, but I mean, these days, like hard drives are so cheap, like you can buy a little external hard drive. I don't know, depends. It's up to you really, but I have a hard time. Like I'm not a hoarder at all in real life, but with data, with footage, I kind of am, because it's not that expensive to buy like just a little external hard drive, put it all in there and just keep it somewhere just in case, What about you?
So I keep a lot of footage, and probably a lot of footage that I shouldn't keep. But what I found myself doing is, so when I film hockey, say for minor hockey and that, I'm going around the boards with my Sony, getting all the different angles and all that. But I have 2 GoPros behind each net. So what I used to just keep all the GoPro footage. But like I'm filming 5K 30 or 4K 60, it gets heavy. So now what I do is, after the game, I try and make a timeline with my GoPro footage that's the same size as the file, and I put the best clips on there. I export that, and then I could delete the raw files, because we're talking like 64 gigs times 2 every game, and on a 40 game schedule, that gets heavy fast. So that's the only time I would delete footage net. Now, do I do this all the time? No, I don't. But do I want to do this all the time? Yes. So that's when I would delete footage. That's an instance where I would delete footage. Back in the day, you and I, when we used to have to cut up Habs games, so there would be a Canadiens game or an NHL game, and we'd basically go through the TV feed. Do you remember? And we would cut clips. Now, I guess you could do the same thing. You could go through your card right away, keep the best clips, and you can scrap the rest if you need to save space. That would be the ideal thing, because you're going to have clips where guys just come in and skate around and come back out, or even in football, it's an incomplete pass. The only thing is, sometimes you got to make sure you look at that clip, because sometimes there is stuff you can use in that clip. Like some of my favorite clips now, which I used to be a little trigger happy. So, you're filming the play's over, you stop the clip. Some of the best clips are after the play, when you get guys from teams interacting with guys on their team, or trash talking, some pushing, some shoving, stuff like that. I find those are really, really great clips. So I try not to be so trigger happy nowadays, and I don't mind keeping the footage. Like you said, like I have extra hard drive, stuff like that. But there's nothing wrong with basically breaking it down, making a timeline of the best stuff, and exporting that if you need to save the space. It depends what you're doing it for and who you're doing it for. If you're doing it for yourself, then yeah, and you want to save the space, do it. If you're doing it for a client, keep everything, because you never know, they might come back to you. It might be as silly as, hey, this guy doesn't play anymore for us. Would you happen to have any clips of him? Even though he didn't score that game, you might have a couple of his shifts. So if it's for a client, keep it. But if it's for yourself and you don't have a lot of hard drives, then there's no problem.
To me, it's more about shooting less than deleting stuff. You know what I mean? Like sometimes, especially before the game's even started, if I've already drained one battery because I'm filming like warm-ups and this and that, and it's like, calm down. Like I'm not, there's only, 15 seconds tops that are going to be like warm-up content in a video. And even that is a lot. It's probably going to be more like 7 seconds. So like if I've been filming the warm-up for the last 20 minutes, maybe I need to calm down a bit. You know what I mean?
But when you get there, you're so excited to start shooting, right? You're like, you want to shoot everything. But listen, I'm talking more game footage. Warm-up footage, hey, if you want to, you can bank. I would keep all the warm-up footage because you could use it later on. No one knows if that guy's doing layups today or tomorrow or a week from now. Game footage, people know more. But I was more talking about game footage. Like your warm-up stuff, especially if you're filming the same team, you're going to create a bank of that as you go.
All right. I'll answer the rest of the questions directly in the DMs.
We're going to have him on the show and we're going to ask him live. We're going to ask him questions. True. We're going to role reversal. No, I like it though. Honestly, if you guys have any questions, feel free, write them in the comments, send them to E. You can email
or
E.
the Game Day Glare Instagram account. There's DMs there too.
That's it. But the thing about editing or even this topic is there's so many ways to do the same thing. And it's whatever you're comfortable with, honestly. My workflow might not work for you or yours might not work for me. It's just, how is it? Like, I look at video editing as puzzle solving. You're solving a puzzle to tell a story. How do you do it? Doesn't matter. What's the final puzzle look like? What's that final story look like? Because, we haven't even talked about like post-production. What do you do post-production stuff? Like, when you're exporting a timeline, what do you like? Double checking is one of the biggest things you could do. I double check all the time now because even sometimes when you do a quick edit, it could be a little frame of black that you missed, or it could be a little error. So you always have to go back. I export my video, I'll watch it. There's so many things that you can do to become a better editor. So
go and edit, go practice.
That's it.
Be better.
But you're editing this episode, not me, right?
Yeah, there's going to be a bit of editing in this one. Yeah, I can take it out. It's all right. I do everything around here anyway.
That's it. He does everything. I just show up.
Biggest lie ever.
No, this is a team effort, everybody. This is a team effort.
Yes.
All right, so that's it, I guess, for our little convo on editing for today. I know we probably missed a ton of stuff. I know we got kind of off topic, but if there's anything that you want answered, send it to Beyond the Game, and E will answer it.
Yes. Or you might get on the show.
That's it. With a live recording too.
Yes. See? Technology.
All right. Take care.
See ya.